October 26, 1942. Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. 2,230 hours. Staff Sergeant Mitchell Page gripped the wooden stock of his water-cooled Browning machine gun as waves of Japanese infantry emerged from the jungle darkness. The distinctive sound of Arisaka rifles cracked through the humid night air. But something was different this time. Alongside the familiar staccato of Marine-operated bolt-action Springfields came a new sound, the rapid rhythmic bark of semi-automatic rifle fire. The 164th Infantry Regiment of the North Dakota National Guard had arrived on Guadalcanal 13 days earlier, on October 13, 1942, becoming the first U.S. Army unit to engage in offensive action against the Japanese. They carried with them a weapon that would permanently alter the dynamics of infantry combat. What the Japanese soldiers charging toward Henderson Field didn't know was that they were about to encounter the first mass deployment of semi-automatic rifles in Pacific combat. The M1 Garand had arrived, and with it, the entire calculus of small unit warfare was about to change forever. The Pacific War had exposed a critical vulnerability in American infantry doctrine. Japanese tactics, perfected during years of combat in China, relied heavily on the banzai charge, massed infantry assaults designed to overwhelm defensive positions through sheer aggression and numerical superiority. These tactics had worked devastatingly well against Chinese conscripts armed with slow-firing Mauser rifles. The tactical realities of bolt-action warfare were brutal but simple. A trained soldier with a bolt-action rifle could fire approximately 15 aimed rounds per minute. Between each shot, he had to manually operate the bolt, lifting, pulling back, pushing forward, and locking down. During those precious seconds, an attacking force could cover 10 to 15 yards of open ground. In the dense jungle terrain of the Pacific, where engagement distances rarely exceeded 100 yards, this rate of fire limitation could prove fatal. The Imperial Japanese Army understood these tactical limitations intimately. Their Type 38 and Type 99 Arisaka rifles, while excellent bolt-action weapons, fired at the same limited rate as the American Springfield M1903. Japanese tactical doctrine compensated for this limitation through aggressive close-quarters combat, emphasizing the bayonet charge and the psychological impact of massed assault. But in the machine shops of Springfield Armory, Massachusetts, a quiet evolution had been taking place since 1936. The M1 Garand had officially replaced the M1903 Springfield as the U.S. service rifle on January 9, 1936. This wasn't just an incremental improvement, it was a complete reimagining of what an infantry rifle could be. The strategic implications extended far beyond individual firefights. Modern warfare had become a contest of industrial capacity as much as tactical skill. The nation that could arm its soldiers with superior weapons in sufficient quantities would hold a crucial advantage. Germany had recognized this principle with their development of the MG-34 machine gun. Japan had invested heavily in naval aviation. But America was about to demonstrate that the individual rifleman, properly equipped, could still determine the outcome of battles. John Cantius Garand was an unlikely innovator. Born on January 1, 1888, just outside Montreal in Saint-Remy, Quebec, Canada, he moved with his family to Connecticut at age 11, becoming a bobbin boy in a textile mill by age 12. His mechanical genius manifested early. He designed and patented a screwjack at age 14. In 1919, Garand joined Springfield Armory, where he began working on the development of a semi-automatic rifle. His initial designs struggled to gain traction, but his relentless pursuit of improvement eventually led him to develop a unique gas-operated mechanism that set the M1 apart from its competitors. This design utilized the gas expelled from a fired cartridge to cycle the action, allowing for rapid successive shots without manual reloading. The M1 Garand was a masterpiece of mechanical engineering and practical design. Weighing only 9.5 pounds, it had a rigidly supported barrel and fired semi-automatically from an 8-shot on-block clip. The rifle's gas-operated mechanism utilized expanding gases from each fired cartridge to automatically eject the spent casing, chamber a new round, and cock the hammer for the next shot. This cycle occurred in less than 1/10 of a second. The tactical advantages of this advancement were game-changing. While a bolt-action rifle delivered 15 aimed rounds per minute, the M1 Garand could deliver 40 to 50 aimed rounds per minute, a threefold increase in firepower. More critically, the shooter never had to break his sight picture or shooting position between shots. Every trigger pull delivered a 30.06 Springfield round with 2,800 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, capable of penetrating 20 inches of white pine at 100 yards. Production statistics told their own story of American industrial mobilization. Machine production began at Springfield Armory in September 1937 at a rate of 10 rifles per day, reaching an output of 100 per day within 2 years. By December 1941, approximately 29,700 M1 rifles had been produced. But this was just the beginning. The rifle's designer had another essential advantage. He understood manufacturing as intimately as he understood mechanics. Garand's background in industrial machinery allowed him to design the rifle for ease of production, as well as the machines that would perform each operation. This dual expertise would prove critical when America needed to arm millions of soldiers. The night of October 24th to 25th, 1942, would become known as the Battle for Henderson Field, though the Marines who fought it would remember it simply as Dugout Sunday. Lieutenant Colonel Lewis Chesty Puller's 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, held a critical sector of the perimeter. His Marines, armed primarily with M1903 Springfield rifles, had been fighting for weeks with dwindling ammunition and mounting casualties. When Puller requested reinforcements, they came in the form of the 3rd Battalion, 164th Infantry Regiment, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Robert K. Hall from Jamestown, North Dakota. Private First Class Leonard Stefanich of the 164th Infantry later recalled the moment of integration. The Marines looked at our rifles with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. They'd never seen M1s in combat. Some of them still thought semi-automatic fire would waste ammunition. At 2100 hours, Japanese artillery began the preparatory bombardment. Intelligence estimates suggested that General Masao Maruyama's Sendai Division had massed over 7,000 troops for the assault. The Japanese plan was straightforward: overwhelm the American positions through successive waves of infantry charges, each wave exploiting the reload delays inherent in bolt-action combat. Puller and Hall worked together to place soldiers in foxholes alongside Marines, creating an integrated defence. Each Army Rifle squad with M1 Garands was positioned to provide interlocking fields of fire with Marine units. At 2200 hours, the first wave struck. Japanese soldiers emerged from the jungle in company-strength formations, rifles fixed with Type 30 bayonets, officers wielding traditional katana swords. The distinctive battle cry of Banzai echoed across the perimeter. The Marines opened fire with their Springfields, the familiar crack-pause-crack rhythm of bolt-action warfare. But interspersed among them, the soldiers of the 164th began firing their M1s. The difference was immediately apparent and lethal. Where a Marine had to work his bolt after each shot, momentarily losing sight of his target, the soldiers with M1s maintained continuous aimed fire. 8 rounds, as fast as they could squeeze the trigger, each bullet finding its mark in the packed Japanese formations. The distinctive ping of ejecting en-bloc clips rang out as soldiers reloaded in under 3 seconds and resumed firing. Corporal Joseph F. Lapointe of the 164th would later testify, "The Japanese came in waves, just like we'd been told they would, but they seemed completely unprepared for the volume of fire we could put out. You could see the confusion in their ranks when what should have been gaps in our fire just weren't there." The second wave struck at 23:30 hours, this time with greater numbers. Japanese tactical doctrine called for each successive wave to exploit the exhaustion and ammunition depletion of the defenders. but the combat dynamics had changed. The newly issued M1 Garand rifles outshined the bolt-action Springfield 1903s used by the Marines as waves of Japanese assaulted the perimeter. By dawn on October 25th, over 2,200 Japanese bodies littered the approaches to Henderson Field. American casualties numbered fewer than 100 dead and wounded. The 164th Infantry's firepower had been critical. The soldiers earned the respect of the Marines, and the Army Regiment was awarded the Navy Presidential Unit Citation. Corporal Kenneth S. Foubert of the 164th Infantry had already made history 13 days earlier, becoming recognized as the first U.S. Army soldier to die in combat after the attack on Pearl Harbor, when he was struck by shrapnel from a bomb dropped by a Japanese plane as he landed on the beach on October 13th. The success on Guadalcanal sent shockwaves through both American and Japanese military establishments. Urgent cables from Pacific Theater commanders demanded immediate acceleration of M1 Garand production and distribution. Springfield Armory shifted to 24-hour operations. The change was remarkable. Entire production lines were reorganized around the clock. Workers who had previously manufactured typewriters and sewing machines now assembled the components of America's primary infantry weapon. By mid-1943, Springfield's output reached unprecedented levels of production efficiency, eventually exceeding 4,000 rifles daily. In 1940, a second source was enlisted when Winchester Repeating Arms Company was contracted to manufacture the M1 Garand. Winchester's experience in mass-producing sporting rifles proved invaluable. Their New Haven, Connecticut factory retooled entire production lines, implementing innovative manufacturing techniques that further streamlined production. The modernization of Winchester's factory represented American industrial mobilization at its peak. Peacetime manufacturers of sporting goods became arsenals of democracy. Winchester employed over 15,000 workers by 1943, running 3 shifts continuously. Women who had never before worked in arms manufacturing became expert rifle assemblers. Quality control inspectors checked every rifle at 37 different points in the production process. By 1941, production rates had increased dramatically, reaching over 600 rifles per day. In total, approximately 5.4 million M1 Garands were produced during the war years. This massive output was achieved through a combination of traditional craftsmanship and modern mass production techniques that had never before been applied to military firearms on such a scale. Each rifle required 150 separate manufacturing operations. The receiver alone demanded 72 distinct machining steps. Barrel production involved deep hole drilling through 24 inches of specialized ordnance steel, maintaining tolerances of 2/10,000ths of an inch. The rifling process cut 6 grooves in a right-hand twist, 1 turn in 10 inches, optimal for stabilizing the .306 cartridge. But production was only half the equation. The rifles had to reach combat units across 2 oceans. The logistics chain stretched from Springfield and New Haven to training camps across America, then to ports of embarkation, across submarine-infested waters, to supply depots in England, North Africa, and the Pacific. November 8, 1942. Operation Torch. As the 164th Infantry continued fighting on Guadalcanal, American forces landed in North Africa. The 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red one, came ashore at Oran, Algeria, with every rifleman carrying an M1 Garand. The terrain of North Africa presented completely different challenges from the Pacific jungles. Open desert warfare with engagement distances exceeding 500 yards would test the M1's accuracy and reliability under harsh conditions. Sand, dust, and extreme temperature variations, from 120 degrees Fahrenheit during the day to near freezing at night, stressed every component of the rifle. Technical Sergeant William Crawford of the 36th Infantry Division would earn the Medal of Honor near Altavilla, Italy, in September 1943. His citation described how he single-handedly attacked 3 German machine gun positions. Armed with his M1 Garand and grenades, Crawford eliminated all 3 positions, his rapid semi-automatic fire suppressing the enemy long enough for him to close within grenade range. The operational dynamics of desert warfare differed from jungle combat, but the M1's advantages remained crucial. German forces, armed primarily with the Karabiner 98K bolt-action rifle, found themselves consistently outgunned in infantry engagements. The Wehrmacht's response was to increase production of the MP-40 submachine gun and accelerate development of semi-automatic rifles like the Gewehr 43. But the German efforts came too late and in insufficient quantities. While the Wehrmacht struggled to field 400,000 Gewehr 43 rifles throughout the entire war, America had already produced over 2 million M1 Garands by the end of 1943 alone. September 1943. The mountains of Italy presented yet another combat environment. Here, in terrain that favoured defensive positions, the M1 Garand proved its versatility. Corporal Charles E. Commando Kelly of the 143rd Infantry Regiment would receive the Medal of Honour for actions near Altavilla, Italy, on September 13, 1943. When German forces counterattacked his position, Kelly held them off with his automatic rifle until it overheated and jammed. He then used another rifle, and when that too failed, he pulled the pins on 60mm mortar shells and used them as grenades, killing at least 5 enemy soldiers. Kelly's actions, though performed with various weapons, demonstrated the kind of aggressive infantry tactics that the M1 Garand made possible across the theatre. Private First Class Floyd K. Lindstrom of the 3rd Infantry Division would receive the Medal of Honour for actions near Mignano, Italy, on November 11, 1943. When his squad was pinned down by German machine gun fire, Lindstrom used his M1 to provide covering fire while manoeuvring to flank the position. The rapid, accurate fire from his Garand allowed him to suppress the enemy gun crew long enough to destroy the position with grenades. Supply of the M1 rifle took some time to catch up with demand, and many units in Italy were not fully equipped with the Garand until mid-1944. Units still equipped with M1903 Springfields found themselves at a severe disadvantage in the close-quarters mountain fighting. The Italian campaign demonstrated another essential advantage of the M1 Garand, its reliability in adverse conditions. Rain, mud and snow were constant companions in the Italian mountains. The M1's gas-operated system, while complex, proved remarkably resistant to fouling. Soldiers reported that even when caked with mud, the rifle would continue to function after a quick field cleaning. June 6, 1944, D-Day. As American soldiers waded through the surf at Omaha Beach, they carried M1 Garands wrapped in protective gas-proof bags. The rifles had been treated with special preservative compounds to survive the saltwater immersion. Private Carlton W. Barrett of the 18th Infantry Regiment, 1st Infantry Division, would earn the Medal of Honour for his actions on D-Day. Armed with his M1 Garand and Browning automatic rifle ammunition he'd gathered from fallen comrades, Barrett eliminated an entire German machine gun squad that had pinned down his unit on the beach. The hedgerow country of Normandy created a unique tactical environment. Engagement distances rarely exceeded 50 yards, and the ability to deliver rapid, accurate fire while manoeuvring became paramount. By late summer 1944, many non-commissioned officers and field officers swapped out their M1 carbines for Garand rifles, opting for the hard-hitting .3006 round that could blast through doors and masonry in urban combat. Staff Sergeant Walter D. Ehlers of the 18th Infantry Regiment would earn the Medal of Honour for actions near Goville, France on June 9 to 10, 1944. Over 2 days of intense combat, Ehlers used his M1 Garand to eliminate multiple German positions, at one point single-handedly attacking a mortar position and killing its crew with rapid semi-automatic fire. The Battle for St. Lo, July 1944, demonstrated the M1's effectiveness in urban warfare. House-to-house fighting required weapons that could penetrate walls and barriers. The .306 round fired from the M1 could punch through brick walls that would stop lesser calibers. German soldiers quickly learned to fear the distinctive sound of multiple M1s firing in rapid succession. October 20th, 1944, Leyte Gulf, Philippines. General Douglas MacArthur waded ashore, fulfilling his promise to return. With him came 4 army divisions, fully equipped with M1 Garands, about to face the most fanatical Japanese resistance of the war. The Philippines campaign would test every aspect of the M1 Garand's design. Monsoon rains, tropical humidity approaching 100%, salt corrosion from sea spray, and the ever-present mud of jungle warfare. Japanese forces, now fully aware of American firepower superiority, had adapted their tactics. Instead of massed banzai charges, they employed infiltration tactics, spider holes, and interconnected tunnel systems. Private First Class Dirk J. Vlug of the 126th Infantry Regiment, 32nd Infantry Division, would demonstrate the M1's effectiveness in this new tactical environment. On December 15, 1944, near Limon, Leyte, Vlug single-handedly assaulted 5 Japanese positions. Armed with his M1 Garand and a rocket launcher captured from a wounded comrade, he eliminated multiple enemy strongpoints, his rapid rifle fire keeping Japanese defenders suppressed while he manoeuvred. The Battle for Manila, February 1945, would see urban warfare on a scale not previously encountered in the Pacific. Every building became a fortress, every room a potential killing field. The M1 Garand's power became essential. Its .306 rounds could penetrate walls, doors, and improvised barricades that would stop lesser calibers. Technical Sergeant Donald E. Rudolph of the 20th Infantry Regiment would earn the Medal of Honor during the fighting for Manila. On February 5, 1945, Rudolph cleared an entire city block virtually single-handed, using his M1 Garand to eliminate Japanese defenders from fortified positions. His citation noted that he fired over 400 rounds during the 6-hour engagement, with his M1 functioning flawlessly throughout. April 1, 1945, Operation Iceberg. The invasion of Okinawa represented the largest amphibious assault of the Pacific War. Over 180,000 American soldiers and Marines would land on the island, virtually all armed with M1 Garands or M1 carbines. The Japanese defense of Okinawa represented their most sophisticated tactical evolution of the war. General Mitsuru Ushijima had prepared a defense in depth, utilizing the island's natural cave systems and coral ridges. Instead of attempting to stop the Americans at the beach, he would bleed them white in a battle of attrition. Private First Class Desmond Doss, a medic with the 77th Infantry Division, would earn the Medal of Honor without ever firing a weapon. But the men he saved relied on their M1 Garands to suppress Japanese positions while Doss evacuated wounded soldiers. On May 5, 1945, during the assault on the Maida Escarpment, Hacksaw Ridge, soldiers of the 77th Infantry Division delivered covering fire with their M1s, while Doss single-handedly evacuated 75 wounded men. Corporal Thomas J. Coolidge of the 96th Infantry Division described the intensity of the fighting. The Japanese had learned. They didn't charge anymore. They made us come to them, fighting for every cave, every pillbox. Without the M1, we would have been overwhelmed. When a spider hole opened up, you had to put 8 rounds on it immediately, or someone died. The Battle for Sugarloaf Hill, May 12th to 18th, 1945, epitomized the savage nature of Okinawa combat. Marines and soldiers fired over 30,000 rounds of 30 cal 06 ammunition per day during the 6-day battle. M1 Garands, fired until their barrels glowed red, delivered the sustained firepower necessary to suppress Japanese positions. Private First Class Clarence B. Craft of the 382nd Infantry Regiment would earn the Medal of Honor on May 31, 1945, at Hen Hill, Okinawa. Armed with his M1 Garand and grenades, Kraft single-handedly assaulted a Japanese-held escarpment, eliminating multiple machine gun positions and killing dozens of enemy soldiers in close combat. His rifle's rapid-fire capability allowed him to suppress enemy positions while maneuvering up the steep slope. By the battle's end on June 22, 1945, American forces had suffered over 50,000 casualties. Japanese losses exceeded 100,000 dead. The M1 Garand had proven itself in the war's most brutal combat environment, functioning reliably despite the mud, rain and constant use that characterized the 82-day campaign. The numbers told an irrefutable story of industrial might and tactical superiority. Production statistics. Total M1 Garands produced during World War II, 5,468,772. Springfield Armory production, approximately 3.5 million rifles. Winchester production, over 500,000 rifles. Peak daily production, over 5,000 rifles per day across all facilities. Total .30-06 ammunition produced, 47 billion rounds. Cost per rifle, $85 in 1945, approximately $1,200 in modern currency. Combat effectiveness metrics: rate of fire advantage, 300% over bolt-action rifles. Effective range, 500+ yards with iron sights. Maximum effective range, 1,000 yards. First-round hit probability at 300 yards, 73% for trained marksmen. Sustained fire capability, 100+ rounds before significant accuracy degradation. Mean rounds between failure, 5,000+ rounds. Barrel life, 10,000+ rounds before replacement needed. The numerical advantage was undeniable. A standard U.S. Army rifle squad of 12 men with 10 M1 Garands and 2 Browning automatic rifles could deliver 400 to 500 aimed rounds per minute. An equivalent Japanese squad with Arisaka rifles could manage only 150 to 180 rounds per minute. This threefold firepower advantage at the squad level translated into conclusive tactical superiority in virtually every engagement. Master Sergeant John C. Clark of the 7th Infantry Division calculated that during a typical engagement on Okinawa, his platoon expended ammunition at a 4-to-1 ratio compared to Japanese units, while achieving a 6-to-1 casualty ratio in their favour. Simple arithmetic, he noted in his after-action report. We could shoot faster, more accurately, and didn't have to expose ourselves working a bolt. German after-action reports captured in 1945 consistently noted American small arms superiority. A Wehrmacht training circular from December 1944 stated, "The American infantry's firepower at the squad level exceeds our own by a factor of 3. Frontal engagements at ranges under 300 meters should be avoided unless supporting weapons are available." Japanese military intelligence reports from 1943 onward showed increasing concern about American firepower. A translated document from Imperial General Headquarters, dated March 1944, noted, "The enemy's semi-automatic rifles have negated our traditional advantage in spirit and elan. New tactics must be developed to counter this technological superiority." The psychological impact was equally significant. Wehrmacht Obergefreiter Friedrich Bertenrath, captured during the Battle of the Bulge, stated during interrogation, "We could always tell when we faced Americans by the sound of their rifles. That constant rapid fire meant we couldn't advance without taking heavy casualties. It demoralized the younger soldiers who expected a more equal fight." The M1 Garand's impact extended far beyond individual battles. It essentially altered military doctrine, industrial planning, and the very nature of infantry combat. The U.S. Army completely rewrote its infantry tactics around the M1's capabilities. Field Manual 7-10, Infantry Rifle Company, revised in 1944, emphasized fire and maneuver tactics that exploited the Garand's rapid-fire capability. The concept of marching fire, advancing while delivering sustained accurate fire, became possible only with semi-automatic rifles. Squad formations changed to maximize firepower while minimizing vulnerability. The traditional line formation gave way to dispersed formations that could concentrate fire from multiple angles. Fireteam concepts, later refined in Korea and Vietnam, originated from tactics developed around the M1 Garand's capabilities. The principle of fire superiority, always important in infantry combat, became absolutely dominant with the M1. American doctrine emphasized gaining and maintaining fire superiority as the prerequisite for any maneuver. This differed markedly from German doctrine, which emphasized maneuver to achieve local superiority, and Japanese doctrine, which relied on spiritual superiority and shock action. The mass production of M1 Garands drove innovations in American manufacturing that would influence post-war industry. Techniques developed for producing rifle barrels were adapted for civilian applications, ranging from automotive drive shafts to oil drilling equipment. The quality control systems developed for M1 production became templates for modern manufacturing standards. Statistical process control, pioneered at Springfield Armory to ensure interchangeable parts, became standard practice in American industry. The concept of go-no-go gauges, vital for M1 production, spread throughout manufacturing sectors. After World War II ended, International Harvester Corporation and Harrington and Richardson Arms joined the production effort during the Korean War, with International Harvester alone producing 337,623 M1 Garands between 1953 and 1956. This demonstrated the enduring value of the design and the ability of American industry to rapidly reconstitute military production capabilities. The M1 Garand's success triggered a worldwide rush to develop semi-automatic infantry rifles. The Soviet Union accelerated development of the SVT-40, though production problems limited its deployment. Germany rushed the Gewehr 43 into production, but managed to field fewer than 500,000 throughout the war. Even Britain, traditionally conservative in small arms development, began experimenting with semi-automatic designs. Post-war, virtually every major military adopted semi-automatic or selective fire rifles as standard infantry weapons. The bolt-action rifle, which had dominated battlefields for over 50 years, was relegated to specialized sniper applications within a decade of World War II's end. The AK-47, developed by Mikhail Kalashnikov after experiencing American firepower superiority firsthand, incorporated lessons learned from facing M1-equipped troops. The FNF-AL, adopted by numerous NATO countries, was designed specifically to match or exceed the M1's capabilities. The German G3 rifle incorporated design elements that addressed weaknesses identified when facing M1-equipped American forces. Veterans consistently reported the psychological impact of the M1's firepower. Japanese soldier Tadashi Suzuki, captured on Saipan in 1944, told interrogators, "We were told Americans were soft, weak. But their rifles never stopped shooting. It destroyed our spirit. We called them the rifles that shoot forever." German Feldwebel Hans Müller, captured in the Hürtgen forest, stated, "We knew when we faced Americans by the sound of their rifles. That rapid bang-bang-bang meant taking cover and waiting for artillery. We couldn't match their rifle fire. It was like fighting men armed with machine guns." The distinctive ping of the M1's ejecting clip, initially thought to be a tactical disadvantage, actually became a psychological weapon. Veterans reported that the sound often caused enemy soldiers to expose themselves prematurely, thinking Americans were reloading, only to be cut down by other squad members whose rifles were still loaded. The M1 Garand's 8-round en-bloc clip system modernized ammunition supply. Clips could be preloaded at supply depots, sealed in waterproof containers, and distributed to front-line units. A soldier could carry 80 rounds in 10 clips more easily than 60 rounds in loose ammunition or stripper clips. The standardization around .306 ammunition simplified logistics considerably. The same round was used in the M1 Garand, the M1903 Springfield, still used for sniping and grenade launching, the Browning automatic rifle, and most American machine guns. This commonality reduced supply complications and allowed ammunition sharing between different weapons systems. General George Patton described it as the greatest battle implement ever devised. This wasn't mere hyperbole from a general known for colourful statements. The M1 Garand had essentially changed warfare. When North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel on June 25, 1950, American forces rushed to respond. Many of the M1 Garands pulled from storage had seen combat in World War II. The rifles, some showing rebuild stamps from multiple arsenals, proved that good design and quality manufacturing could produce weapons with extraordinary service lives. When war broke out on the Korean peninsula in 1950, soldiers and Marines picked their M1 rifles back up and went to fight. The frozen hills of Korea presented new challenges. Temperatures dropping to -35 degrees Fahrenheit tested every component. But John Garand had designed his rifle to function in extreme cold as well as heat. While Chinese forces struggled with frozen bolt actions, American troops found their M1s still functioned reliably with proper maintenance. Master Sergeant Roy Benavides, who would later earn the Medal of Honor in Vietnam, first saw combat in Korea with an M1 Garand. He recalled, "At the Pusan perimeter, we were outnumbered sometimes 10-1. The M1 was the equalizer. When the Chinese came in their human waves, our sustained fire broke them every time." Technical Sergeant Vernon McGarity of the 393rd Infantry Regiment had earned the Medal of Honor during the Battle of the Bulge. Wounded severely in the face and legs by artillery on December 16, 1944, McGarity refused evacuation and returned to his unit near Krinkelt, Belgium. Using various weapons, including rifles, to hold off German attacks, he was eventually captured after his position was overrun. President Harry Truman presented him with the Medal of Honor on January 11, 1946. McGarity's experience, though primarily with crew-served weapons, demonstrated the kind of determined defensive fighting that M1-equipped units could sustain. The Battle of Chipyong-ni, February 1951, demonstrated the M1's continued relevance. Surrounded Chinese forces launched massive night attacks against the 23rd Infantry Regiment. Private First Class Herbert K. Pililau would posthumously receive the Medal of Honor for his actions during the battle. When his squad was overrun, Pililau fought with his M1 until ammunition was exhausted, then used it as a club, and finally fought with his bare hands until killed. His M1's rapid fire had allowed him to hold his position long enough for reinforcements to arrive and save his unit. The M1 Garand was officially replaced by the M14 rifle on March 26, 1958. Yet its service continued. Reserve and National Guard units carried M1s into the 1970s. Navy ships maintained M1s for line-throwing guns into the 1990s. The Greek army used M1 Garands in combat as late as 1974 during the Turkish invasion of Cyprus. Military drill teams still use the M1 rifle, including the U.S. Marine Corps Silent Drill Team, the United States Air Force Academy Cadet Honor Guard, and numerous ROTC units. The rifle's perfect balance and solid construction make it ideal for precision drill movements. The Norwegian Royal Guard continues to use M1 Garands for ceremonial purposes, a tribute to the American weapons that helped liberate their nation. A true patriot, Garand offered this amazing gun to the government royalty-free. He never profited from the more than 6 million Garand rifles eventually produced. When Congress attempted to award him $100,000 in recognition, the bill failed to pass, though he did receive numerous honours including the Medal for Meritorious Service in 1941 and the Medal for Merit in 1944. Garand continued working at Springfield Armory until his retirement in 1953, after 34 years of service. He held 54 firearms-related patents, all assigned to the US government without additional compensation. He lived modestly in Springfield, Massachusetts, until his death in 1974, having lived to see his rifle serve in 3 wars and arm millions of American servicemen. In a rare 1940s interview, Garand said, "I am not a genius. I am just a mechanic who loves to solve problems. The M1 rifle was simply a problem that needed solving. How to give our soldiers the best possible weapon. If my rifle saved even one American life, then my work was worthwhile." Beyond production figures and technical specifications, other numbers told the M1 Garand's true story. American infantry casualties in World War II, 661,000. Japanese infantry casualties facing American forces, estimated 1.5 to 2 million. German infantry casualties on the Western Front, approximately 800,000. Kill ratio advantage for M1 equipped units, 3-to-1 to 6-to-1 depending on terrain. Estimated enemy soldiers killed by M1 rifle fire, over 750,000. American lives saved by superior firepower, estimated 200,000 plus. These ratios reflected not just training or tactics, but the core firepower advantage provided by semi-automatic rifles. Military historians calculate that American casualty rates would have been 30 to 40% higher with bolt-action rifles, potentially adding 200,000 or more American deaths. Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, commander of Japanese forces on Iwo Jima, wrote in his final report, "The enemy's individual firepower exceeds our estimates by 300%. Each American rifleman possesses the firepower of 3 of our soldiers. This disparity cannot be overcome by spiritual strength alone." Field Marshal Erwin Rommel noted in his diary after observing American forces in North Africa, "Their individual weapons, particularly their semi-automatic rifles, give them a conclusive advantage in meeting engagements. We must avoid infantry confrontations where possible." Private First Class Audi. Murphy, the most decorated American soldier of World War II, credited the M1 Garand with saving his life numerous times. During his Medal of Honor action on January 26, 1945, Murphy used an M1 Garand to hold off an entire German company, firing over 200 rounds in a single engagement. "The M1 never let me down," he later wrote. "When everything else failed, when artillery couldn't reach, when air support wasn't available, that rifle kept me alive." Soviet Marshal Georgy Zhukov, observing American forces during joint operations in 1945, commented, "The American soldier is well armed. His semi-automatic rifle gives him a significant advantage in combat. We must develop similar weapons for the Red Army." This observation contributed directly to Soviet development of the SKS, and later the AK-47. The M1 Garand became more than a weapon. It became a symbol of American industrial capability and democratic strength. The rifle that armed citizen soldiers from farms and factories proved superior to weapons carried by professional warriors of totalitarian regimes. Post-war surveys of veterans revealed that 94% rated the M1 Garand as excellent or very good. When asked what single piece of equipment most contributed to victory, the M1 Garand consistently ranked in the top 3, alongside the Jeep and the C-47 transport aircraft. Bill Mauldin, the famous World War II cartoonist, captured the relationship between American soldiers and their M1s in his Willie and Joe cartoons. In one memorable panel, a soldier is shown carefully cleaning his muddy M1 while ignoring his own filthy condition, with the caption, "I'll worry about me after I take care of her. She takes care of me." After World War II, America distributed M1 Garands to allies worldwide through military assistance programs. The rifle armed forces in South Korea, 600,000 rifles. Greece, 200,000 rifles. Turkey, 312,000 rifles. Iran, 165,000 rifles. Philippines, 150,000 rifles. Pakistan, 130,000 rifles. Denmark, 85,000 rifles. Norway, 75,000 rifles. Italy, 232,000 rifles, including those manufactured under license. These rifles influenced a generation of military leaders and weapons designers worldwide. The principle of semi-automatic operation became the global standard, directly traceable to the M1 Garand's success. The M1 Garand's operating system influenced virtually every successful military rifle that followed. The M14, which replaced it, was basically an M1 with a detachable magazine and selective fire capability. The Ruger Mini 14, popular with law enforcement and civilians, copied the Garand's action. Even modern rifles like the M16 and M4 carbine incorporate principles first proven in the M1 Garand. John Garand's gas-operated rotating bolt became the standard for reliability and accuracy. His method of controlling gas pressure through a precisely sized port in the barrel remains essentially unchanged in modern military rifles. The operating rod and bolt design, while refined, can be traced directly to Garand's original patents from the 1930s. Today, M1 Garands are among the most sought-after military collectibles. The civilian marksmanship program has distributed over 500,000 surplus M1s to American citizens since its inception. These rifles, many with multiple rebuild stamps indicating service in World War II, Korea and beyond, serve as tangible connections to history. At Camp Perry, Ohio, the national matches continue to feature M1 Garand competitions. Shooters using 70-year-old rifles regularly achieve accuracy that would have seemed impossible to soldiers who first carried them into combat. The John C. Garand match, established in 1985, honors the inventor while demonstrating the enduring accuracy of his design. Collectors particularly prize rifles with documented combat history. An M1 Garand confirmed to have been carried at D-Day can sell for over $25,000. But even common examples remain functional, reliable rifles, testament to the quality of their design and manufacture. The M1 Garand's story offers enduring lessons about military innovation that remain relevant in an age of smart weapons and networked warfare. Technological superiority at the individual level matters. Throughout the Pacific Campaign, outnumbered American forces prevailed through superior individual firepower. Today's emphasis on the individual soldier as a system continues this philosophy. Manufacturing capability determines military potential. The ability to produce 5.4 million rifles while maintaining quality standards proved as important as the rifle's design. Modern military power still depends on industrial capacity and quality control. Simplicity and reliability trump complexity. The M1's straightforward operation and maintenance made it effective in every combat environment. Modern weapons systems often sacrifice reliability for capability, a trade-off the M1 never made. Training and technology multiply effectiveness. The M1 gave each rifleman unprecedented firepower, but only when properly trained. The synthesis of superior equipment and superior training created unmatched combat effectiveness. Industrial democracy can outproduce totalitarian command economies. American factories, converted from civilian production, outproduced purpose-built Axis armaments industries. This lesson remains relevant in an era of industrial competition between democratic and authoritarian powers. Perhaps the greatest testament to the M1 Garand came from America's enemies. After the war, both German and Japanese military institutions studied the M1 intensively. Their conclusion was unanimous. The semi-automatic rifle had been the determining factor in American infantry superiority. A captured Japanese training document from 1944 stated simply, "Avoid direct engagement with American rifle units unless possessing 3-to-1 numerical superiority or supporting weapons. Their individual firepower negates our spiritual advantage." A German report from the Waffen-SS training school at Bad Tölz, dated January 1945, noted, "The American semi-automatic rifle has changed the nature of infantry combat. Our troops must be trained to expect and counter sustained rapid fire from individual riflemen. Traditional assault tactics are obsolete against such firepower. Corporal Charles E. Commando. Kelly, who earned the Medal of Honor in Italy, reflected years later. People ask me what won the war. Was it the atomic bomb, the B-29, the Sherman tank? I tell them it was simpler than that. It was the M1 rifle. Every GI had one, every GI could use it, and it never let us down. Technical Sergeant Vernon McGarity, despite being captured shortly after his Medal of Honor action at the Battle of the Bulge, witnessed firsthand the impact of American firepower on German forces. The extraordinary defensive action his unit mounted, though ultimately overwhelmed, demonstrated the staying power that M1-equipped units possessed even against superior numbers. Marine Private First Class Albert E. Schwab, who posthumously received the Medal of Honor on Okinawa, wrote in his last letter home, "Mum, this rifle they gave me is something special. It shoots as fast as I can aim. The Japanese just can't match it. If I make it home, it'll be because of this rifle." In the pre-dawn darkness of October 26, 1942, when Staff Sergeant Mitchell Page held his position against overwhelming Japanese forces, and when soldiers of the 164th Infantry Regiment brought their M1 Garands into combat on Guadalcanal, they carried more than just rifles. They carried the culmination of American industrial genius, the product of one immigrant's mechanical brilliance, and the instrument that would permanently alter the nature of warfare. From that night on Henderson Field to the final shots fired in August 1945, the M1 Garand proved itself in every theatre, every climate, and every type of combat. It armed citizen soldiers who had never before fired a weapon in anger and turned them into the most effective infantry force the world had ever seen. The numerical facts were irrefutable. 5,468,772 rifles produced, arming over 16 million American servicemen, achieving casualty ratios that had never before been seen in modern warfare. But beyond the numbers lay a more basic truth. The M1 Garand had democratized firepower, giving individual soldiers capabilities that previously required crew-served weapons. General Douglas MacArthur stated, "The Garand rifle is one of the greatest contributions to our armed forces." This contribution extended beyond military victory. The M1 Garand represented American values made manifest in steel and wood, innovation, quality, reliability, and the belief that superior technology in the hands of free citizens could overcome tyranny. The M1 Garand didn't just change tactics or doctrine, it changed the essential nature of ground combat. For the first time in history, the individual rifleman possessed firepower that could dominate the battlefield. This shift from bolt action to semi-automatic warfare was as significant as the earlier transition from single-shot to magazine-fed rifles. Today, when military historians analyse the factors that led to Allied victory in World War II, they cite industrial capacity, logistics, air superiority, and code-breaking. All were vital. But in the mud of Italy, the jungles of the Pacific, the hedgerows of France, and the frozen hills of Korea, victory ultimately came down to individual soldiers with rifles. And for American soldiers, that rifle was the M1 Garand. John Cantius Garand died in 1974, having lived to see his invention serve 3 generations of American warriors. He never sought fame, never profited from his genius, and lived quietly in the knowledge that his rifle had helped preserve freedom when it was most threatened. His greatest reward, he once said, was knowing that American soldiers had the best rifle in the world when they needed it most. The last word belongs to a soldier. Staff Sergeant Raymond Zussman, who would posthumously receive the Medal of Honor for actions in France, September 1944, wrote in his final letter home, "Mum, if you want to know what's keeping me alive over here, it's my rifle, my buddies, and the knowledge that we've got the best equipment in the world. This M1 rifle, it's like having a guardian angel that never misses." In workshops across America, in factories running 3 shifts, in the genius of one Canadian-born inventor, and in the hands of millions of American soldiers, sailors, and Marines, the M1 Garand had indeed become what General Patton proclaimed, the greatest battle implement ever devised. Its 5 million rifles didn't just arm America's military, they revolutionized the very nature of warfare and helped save the world from tyranny. The distinctive ping of an ejecting en-bloc clip became the sound of freedom advancing, one 8-round clip at a time, across the battlefields of the world. That sound, once heard on every battlefield from Normandy to Okinawa, echoes still in the memory of those who were there and in the gratitude of generations who weren't. When the last World War II veteran passes into history, when the last Korean War soldier tells his final story, the M1 Garand will remain, in museums in collections, in the hands of target shooters at Camp Perry, a tangible reminder of the time when American ingenuity, industrial might, and individual courage combined to save civilization itself. 5 million rifles, 16 million soldiers, one brilliant design, one immigrant inventor, one free nation standing against tyranny. The M1 Garand was, is, and shall remain the greatest battle implement ever devised, not just because of what it was, but because of what it represented. The ability of free people, properly armed and trained, to defeat any enemy, overcome any odds, and preserve liberty for future generations.